Fake news. It isn't new. In fact, there's an example of it that dates all the way back to 1475, according to an article published by Politico. Those familiar with the sensational newspaper practices known as yellow journalism realize it was the standard not too long ago. But it was President Donald Trump who brought the phrase fake news into the public consciousness during his run to the White House. Taking a look at this Google Trends report reveals an exponential increase in searches for the phrase right around Election Day. He also has taken credit for popularizing it. The concept behind fake news is pretty straightforward. Someone, whether intentionally or not, spreads a lie in order to meet an end. That may be to get people to support an agenda, make money, or simply make a point. As to what constitutes fake news? Well, that is mostly in the eyes of the beholder. Trump largely used the phrase to disparage media outlets for what he perceived to be biased reporting.
I'm really not a bad person, by the way. No, but the tone is such... I do get good ratings, you have to admit that. The tone is such hatred.
Others, like former C-SPAN producer Allison Dagnes, see a pattern in what Trump dubs as fake.
He is the most powerful politician in the world. And he needs to stop saying that everything with which he disagrees is fake.
This reached a head when the United States intelligence community concluded that Russia had tried to influence the presidential election. One of the factors former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper pointed at: misinformation.
And so all of these other modes, whether it was RT, use of social media, fake news.
Some also accused Trump's team of colluding with the Russians to make this happen. Trump's response?
Russia is fake news. This is fake news put out by the media.
Still, members of the media and experts began to tout this as a prevailing reason for why Hillary Clinton lost the election, leaving others to ask, what's the big deal? According to Shippensburg University media professor Ted Carlin, there's a unique problem surrounding this iteration at a time when Gallup polls showed trust in the media is low.
That's media literacy, and we don't have a whole lot of that. So I think for our country, it's not just information, it's where it comes from and how quickly it gets to you.
Executive director of the fact-checking website PolitiFact, Aaron Shirachman, believes this as well.
Quite frankly, I don't think we've done a very good job as a society helping people understand the difference between truthful, objective information and then kind of fake information.
But Dagnes says this can be hard when the consumer is inundated.
We are drowning in information and opinion. And so it's really tough. If you turn on any of the cable news channels, it's difficult for your average viewer to distinguish between a journalist and a pundit. A pundit gives their opinion, a journalist gives the facts.
Not only have the lines between fact and opinion been blurred, but as news distribution continues to transition to the internet, some things have been lost in translation.
The evening news, the newspaper. They gave you, by virtue of what their format was, they gave you cues as to what was important. So if something is in the newspaper and it's above the fold on the front page, that's really important. That's a cue that you're given. For the evening news, if it's up at the top, that's very important. If it's after sports and weather, it's not really that important. In a website, those cues are gone.
This transition has also allowed consumers to filter what types of articles they see, which Dagnes says can lead to an unbalanced consumption of politicized media.
Media diets have always been analogous to food choices. So, I love McDonald's. It just tastes so good. It really does. But you can't live on it. Because if you live on McDonald's, you're going to die of a heart attack in like 15 days. Okay? So the problem that we have is that people are making unhealthy media diet choices.
According to Shirachman, this is no accident.
There's a lot of research suggesting that you have your set of beliefs and then you'll pick facts that support those beliefs. And in the case of fake news, oftentimes I think that people might believe something, find something that supports their belief and therefore believe it's true when in reality it's not.
He also noted that this shift in platforms has not only confused consumers, but also opened the floodgates for citizen journalists. Shirachman mentioned that a lot of good has come from citizen journalism, exemplified by events like the Arab Spring. But he also said this has enabled some extremist views.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
One of many such outlets, InfoWars, plays host to these views. Founded by Alex Jones, this site, along with his radio show, gathers millions of eyes and ears per week, including the president's.
When Jones posted this video entitled An Emergency Message to Donald Trump during the campaign,
I am going to ask you to seriously think about making the issue of Hillary's election fraud in the primaries one of the central issues to defeating her in November.
Trump had this to say a day later.
I'm afraid the election's going to be rigged, I have to be honest.
Ben Wolfgang, a former White House correspondent for the Washington Times, has interviewed Jones and occasionally checks in on his site. He worries that it has ascended beyond its niche audience.
I mean, Alex Jones and InfoWars certainly over the past year and a half have kind of crossed over from just being that site where conspiracy theorists could go and sort of bounce crazy ideas back and forth into being an actual force.
Jones is known to have pushed false narratives about 9/11, the Sandy Hook shooting, and more recently, a Clinton-connected pedophilia ring.
D.C. police say this North Carolina man, 28-year-old Edgar Madison Welch, was inspired by a lie spread online to walk into this D.C. pizza restaurant with 2 guns Sunday.
A firm believer in free speech, Wolfgang thinks heavily politicized outlets like InfoWars and Breitbart have their place, but he does have a problem when people generalize.
You can't lump the Huffington Post and Breitbart together and say that they're part of the same media collective, because they're not.
So how can you be sure that you're getting a balanced diet of media? Dagna says to venture out of your comfort zone.
I urge everybody, balanced media diet, right? If you're a liberal, hop onto some conservative sites, some good ones. Wall Street Journal's magnificent. They do some of the best political reporting out there. Their editorial page is very conservative, and I love reading it.
To prevent being duped by a fake news story, Shirachman says there is no replacement for reading before you share.
If you look at these stories, the headlines are often eye-grabbing, and they often, again, are playing at an idea that you may have in your head. But if once you click through and read the information, they tend to fall apart.
But if that proves to be too much work, he says Google can be a great verification tool as well.
Quite frankly, Google is a great way to find basic pieces of information. So take that headline that maybe came across your newsfeed, put it into Google and see what else comes up. Look for reputable sources, names of media that you recognize. Okay, you don't have to trust them 100% of the time, but if CNN is reporting something or Fox News is reporting something, it's more likely to be true than if you're not seeing it from any of those kind of mainstream kind of well-known sources. So there's
reporting for the Slate, I'm Jamison Barker.